Under the same moon, we share the love. Embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. And now do we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world share in love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Watching the World. We have a powerful show in store. Donald Trump is sending shock waves throughout the United States and throughout the world in regards to these Epstein files. We have Bordeaux in the building already, and Ron, welcome in. Ron says Trump is the king of the world. We also have JDP. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for the awesome support. Tonight, we will not have Calvin Johnson with us. We're going to reschedule our typical weekly legal special until Tuesday night. We both have some traveling going on. But tonight we're going to focus on what's happening with the Epstein files, especially now you're hearing that none other than Bill Clinton has been dragged into the whole mix. In fact, he's mentioned by Epstein in some of the emails. Well, what does it say? Well, we're going to get to it tonight. We're also going to talk about Marjorie Greene. It looks like she's had some sort of change of heart, and perhaps she's even switching parties, it appears. Maybe she hasn't committed totally, but to a certain extent, it appears that way. So let's get started right away to see what's happening with this shockwave in regards to the Epstein files. And we welcome you guys in. As you come in, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe. And we look forward to hearing from your comments. Do not hold back from expressing yourself. I try to share as many comments as possible. But let's get right to it. In this first particular video we're going to watch, this gentleman, which I would advise you to go check out his channel. I'm going to put his information in the description box. But he actually goes through the emails that are most important that came out from the Epstein files. You know, there's some over 20,000 emails. But he isolates the ones that are quite damning, I must say, and you're going to see the one that everybody all over the internet is talking about in regards to Bill Clinton. So let's not hold back. Let's get right to it, folks. Let's see what it's all about here.
One is talking about this right now with good reason. And I want to pick out the 21 most interesting, damaging, and shocking revelations because the story.
So he's going to go through 21 of the most damning emails in regards to Donald Trump, Epstein, and even one including Bill Clinton. So we have two individuals that served as presidents being mentioned here. One currently.
Story of Jeffrey Epstein, his ties to Donald Trump, his level of global influence, and the implications it all has for the country and the world has now been blown wide open. Let me start off a little bit differently here. Rather than simply diving in right away, I want to begin with a sort of index glossary of names. There's a pretty hefty number of people that we need to be familiar with before comprehending these emails. So at the very start, right now, I want to go through one by one and explain who these people are.
Hello, Tracy. Thank you for your expression. I understand. Brian, welcome in as well. Thank you, Brian.
So that if at any point someone doesn't remember or I say a name that they don't recall or aren't familiar with, they can come back to the beginning and find out who.
So he's going to go through all of the individuals involved in the email. So you understand as we go through the emails, you'll understand who they're from. So check this out.
That person is, why they matter, etc. Here we go. First, obviously, is Jeffrey Epstein, financier, trafficker, well-connected socialite, and the main subject of the video. He was arrested in 2006, again in 2019, and he died under suspect circumstances in 2020. If you want to know more, there's a bunch of prior videos in a playlist down below, but yeah, I'm sure pretty much everyone is already familiar with who he is. Next is Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell was Epstein's right-hand woman, if you will. She helped facilitate all of his activities, participated directly in the...
Now, I want you guys to keep in mind, I'm going to show you a video where Maxwell's now saying that Donald Trump had nothing really to do with Epstein at all. So the question I want to ask, Can she be trusted? I want you guys to answer in the comments section. Thank you, chat.
Trafficking and the abuse, resulting in a conviction. But after a special interview with the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, she was moved to a minimum security holding facility with special treatment as well, and is now allegedly seeking.
So, for those of you just coming in, Todd Blanche was Donald Trump's attorney when I attended Donald Trump's trial in New York City, where he received 34 felonies. Now he's second in command when it comes to the Department of Justice, and he went to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell. And after that, immediately after, within several weeks, she was sent to a really laid back prison camp. And that's what he's talking about here.
Clemency from President Donald Trump. Obviously, logically, Donald Trump is next. Pretty sure everyone already knows who he is. But his wife, Melania, is also a kind of important figure because she's currently embroiled in a potential lawsuit with an author named Michael Wolff after threatening him with a $1 billion defamation suit in an effort to force retractions on some of the claims that he made about her and
So we're going to see how Melania is actually tied into
Jeffrey Epstein. Michael Wolff, as we just said, an author who wrote extensively about Epstein and conducted a number of interviews with him, supposedly something like 100 hours of footage, is a journalist and author closely connected to the Epstein story, who has not only made explosive claims about things he...
Now, I reached out to Wolff, and I'm trying to bring him on the channel, so hopefully this works out soon for you guys. We'll get a chance to hear from him directly.
Allegedly saw, but also embedded himself in the controversy by targeting President Trump repeatedly. Moving on, we have Landon Thomas Jr., a New York Times journalist who is also relevant to the situation highly. But I also think it's worth mentioning that from 1994 to 1998, Landon Thomas was an asset manager at Morgan Stanley. He's not just a journalist, he's also a finance guy. Next up is Steve Bannon, former chief strategist at the White House during the first 7 months of Trump's 2016 presidency, which is very important. Then we have Catherine Rumler, former White House counsel to Barack Obama, 2011 to 2014, and Larry Summers, former Secretary of the Treasury, Director of the Economic Council, and close personal friend of Jeffrey Epstein. Still not done. There's Bill Clinton, former president, Mark Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein's...
Now, everybody's going crazy on TikTok because Bill Clinton has come into the mix, and it's terrible, folks, what the emails insinuate that happened with Donald Trump and Bill Clinton. Now, can we confirm it? No. But right now, based on the emails that we're going to go through, we're going to see why people are going crazy in regards to Bill Clinton and Donald Trump.
Brother, and then Linda Stone, who is a former Apple and Microsoft executive who reportedly idolized Epstein. Her name comes up in the emails as well. Almost done. Last three names. Tom Barak or Barrick, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, private equity and real estate guy who's done extensive fundraising for President Trump, also serving as the senior advisor on the 2016 Trump presidential...
Okay, Vinny says, quit asking for Epstein, morons. Our government isn't giving that info because they are guilty. Okay, thank you, Vinny. Nice to have you here. JF says, there's a lot more that said he's so funny. The Democrats never came out with this before. Now this is going to backfire on the Democrats. A lot of people feel that way. S. Ferguson, welcome back, says Epstein was a blackmailing Jew. Okay. Vinny says, and don't feel like they owe the Americans anything. Okay, thank you. S. Ferguson says Epstein was a Mossad mole. Now that's being brought out by Tucker Carlson. That's a very interesting point as well. Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. Blessings from the Flying Spaghetti Monster. Okay, let's get back to it. Now, these are the key names that are going to be in the emails that we're going to go through tonight.
Campaign, chairman of his inaugural committee, and now current United States ambassador to Turkey. There's Vitaly Churkin, former Russian ambassador to the United States. And lastly, Thorbjorn Jagland, former prime minister of Norway and secretary general of the council.
So we have Russia, Turkey, Norway, and a host of people in the United States.
Council of Europe. There's a few more names here and there, but those are the ones that we need to fully understand because the 21 most...
So we're going through 21 emails. Pay close attention how Donald Trump is mentioned in these emails. These are the most damning emails that they do have. Not to say that it's anything nefarious to the point of taking the president on a negative run, but we're going to go through it either way.
Most interesting or damaging emails specifically refer to, come from, or are exchanged with one of these people. With that fully out of the way, let's dive right in. 20,000.
Now, before we get to that, 21,000 emails. Debbie says nobody can be trusted, even family. Leave President Donald Trump alone. Let him do his job. Maybe if you idiots would stop aggravating him to death, maybe he wouldn't be so pissed. Leave him alone. Okay, thank you, Debbie, for your expression. Okay, JDP says like, share, and subscribe. Okay, so let's check out these emails.
Emails have been released by House Democrats and House Republicans in a complete mess, by the way. The formatting is terrible. It's just, they're all over the place. But those emails are now being dissected by the internet at large. Thankfully, there is a searchable
Welcome to you, BJ Breachy. Nice to have you here.
Database that was put together by Courier.
And guys, hit the like button, please, and share and subscribe if you like the material.
Which I'll link down below for anyone interested. So the process of finding and sorting out relevant versus irrelevant emails becomes much, much easier. And after doing precisely that, these are the top 21 things that I believe are most interesting, damaging, and shocking from all of them. Here we go. Number 21. This is an email from Jeffrey Epstein to Landon Thomas Jr., New York Times journalist, in 2015, after Landon Thomas said that everyone was coming to him thinking that he had juicy info on Epstein and Trump. Quote, read the BuzzFeed Read My Airplane Logs and Hawaiian Tropic contest, / have them ask my houseman about Donald almost walking through the door, leaving his nose print on the glass as young women were swimming in the pool, and he was so focused he walked straight into the door. End quote. Not the most salacious thing in the world, to be honest, distracted by young women in a pool, but I figure we might as well start slow at the beginning. Number 20.
Now, keep in mind, Donald Trump said that he had cut off dealing with Epstein much earlier, and that occurred in 2015. So let's keep these dates in mind.
Contained in the very same email thread about how people assumed there was juicy info, Epstein also says, quote, would you like photos of Donald and girls in bikinis in my kitchen? End quote.
Okay, so allegedly he's saying he has pictures of Donald Trump and girls in his kitchen. Okay, then he says it's all Democratic propaganda. Well, let's get to it. Let's see what's happening.
Still nothing explicitly wrong with that per se, but certainly a step up in severity. That is, Epstein offering ambiguous or potentially compromising photos of Trump to a reporter. Number 19. This is where things get much more complicated. Donald Trump has long maintained that he split away from Jeffrey Epstein entirely in the early 2000s. There's been multiple contradicting reasons directly cited for that breakup, let's call it, but all of them occur between 2004 and 2007. At least that's what we've been told. In an email thread from an...
So just so you guys know, we cover it extensively here on the channel, but there's two reasons that we've heard so far. Donald Trump said that, and he said it on record, we put it on the channel before, that Epstein was taking females, girls from Mar-a-Lago and pretty much using them toward his, weird behavior type of stuff, right? But then there's also on a separate track, there's another story being told that Epstein showed Donald Trump a piece of property, says, hey, I'm really digging it. What do you think? And then Donald Trump went behind his back and purchased that property. So these are the two tales as to why they broke up. We say that lightly, broke up in 2007. But you'll see a lot of this is happening after the fact of when Donald Trump says that relationship fell apart.
Unknown redacted sender as of 2017. A visitor was on their way to Epstein's house, notably the second floor of Epstein's house, which is where prominent victim Virginia Giuffre specifically indicated the massage tables were, and the bedrooms with cameras were documented in evidence photographs, aka the place where abuse occurred.
Now, just to give you some context, Virginia Giuffre is the young lady that unalived herself earlier this year because of it was so hard for her to carry the weight of everything that happened with her in regards to Epstein. Now, Donald Trump, we have it on video on record, said that Virginia Giuffre was the young lady that Epstein had recruited from Mar-a-Lago, and I believe she was somewhere around 16 or 17 years of age, something to that effect, allegedly. But it's all on video. Donald Trump actually talks about it himself.
This unknown person went to meet him as part of an exchange where they ask for a door code while Epstein says that the house is more private for a meeting. And then suddenly, quote, I'm at the door, but I will wait for my time. I don't want to come early to find Trump in your house, end quote. And keep in mind, this is 2017, nearly a decade after the two had supposedly parted ways. Number 18.
So again, this is 10 years after Donald Trump basically said that they had severed their ties. This is 2017.
This is an exchange allegedly between Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein. Reading, quote, from Epstein: Prince Andrew and Trump today. Too funny, Bannon. Recall Prince Andrew's accuser came from Mar-a-Lago. Further down, can't believe no one is making you the connective tissue, referring to Epstein. To which Epstein then replies, F and B only, end quote. Seemingly speaking in code.
So you know what's happening with Prince Andrew, or former Prince Andrew. He's basically taken the heat, and he's been kicked out of the house, and all sorts of things have fallen apart in his life. And then you see the context here with Steve Bannon talking about the relationship there, allegedly, we say.
I guess. I'm not entirely sure what to make of that one, but I certainly thought it was interesting. Number 17. This is an exchange between Kathy Rumler, former White House counsel to Barack Obama, and Jeffrey Epstein in 2014. Quote from Epstein: You need to talk to boss, Rumler responds. Agreed, but I need to be prepared to say yes before I talk to him. Epstein again: Understood. It comes down to high risk slash reward, low risk slash reward, professional, emotional, and financial. After which Rumler responds, Most girls do not have to worry about this crap. And Epstein says, Girls? Careful, I will renew an old habit. After which he lists off some of the world's most powerful businessmen and politicians, saying, You are a welcome guest at any. Also, if you think there are interesting people in town, everyone here for Climate Summit, Clinton, Security Council, holy shit, I'm on or next 30 minutes, end quote. One thing I should mention right now before going further, these emails are absolutely full of typos. Epstein and multiple of the people that he regularly corresponded with had precisely zero regard for proper grammar. So if it sounds like near gibberish at times, that's just what the emails look like. Anyway, careful, I might renew an old habit in reference to girls is certainly a little bit suspect when it comes to the most prolific abuser in human history.
Wow, did you see that? That's something. Vinny says there's evil in both parties. Basically, from the names that Epstein is mentioning here, you could definitely tell he had a wide net cast throughout the world of very influential individuals involved in this, what appears to be some common denominator. GR welcome in says the demons are finally coming for Demon Trump. Okay. BJ Breachy says Trump was working undercover to help out the victims. Okay, we're going to get to it. All right.
Number 16. This is another exchange between Rumler and Epstein on a thread titled Donald Trump's High Crimes and Misdemeanors. Rumler says, quote,
Okay, so the name of this thread of the email is called Donald Trump's High Crimes and Misdemeanors, from Epstein to Kathy. And this was in 2018, folks, August of 2018.
It makes no difference whether it was his money. Issue is failure to disclose. Plus, fact that he has lied his ass off about it makes clear that he knew it was illegal. To which Epstein responds, You see, I know how dirty Donald is. My guess is that non-lawyers, New York biz people, have no idea what it means to have your fixer flip. And
okay, so here you have Epstein saying that he knows how dirty Donald is. Okay, think about that.
end quote. That particular thread is probably about the criminal cases that Trump faced in New York, presumably. But the idea of Jeffrey Epstein saying, I know how dirty Donald is, should make even the most devout supporters raise an eyebrow. Just to hammer that point home, number 15 is an exchange between Larry Summers and Jeffrey Epstein, in which Epstein says, quote, Recall I've told you I have met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump. Not one decent cell in his body.
Wow, did you see that? Larry Summers says, Recall I've told you I have met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump, not one decent cell in his body. That is crazy.
So yes, dangerous, end quote. Ideally, at this point, the gravity of the situation is beginning to present itself, but we are truly, genuinely only just beginning to scratch the surface of how bad this is getting. Number 14. This is another chain between Epstein and a
So we started with 21. We still have 14 to go. And look how bad it's getting along the way. Now, we can't confirm these emails or what the whole history track is on it. But again, these are allegedly the emails that the Democratic Party has released in regards to Donald Trump.
redacted correspondent, which says, quote, "It will all blow over. They're really just trying to take down Trump and doing whatever they can to do that." To which Epstein replies, "It's wild because I am the one able to take him down." End quote. Let me pose
Okay, so Epstein said he was the one that could take Donald Trump down. Boy, guess where Epstein is? He's down.
a question here. Why is it that Epstein, at the end of 2018, shortly before he was arrested the second time and then died under suspect circumstances, why is it that he's explicitly saying, "I'm the one able to take him down," about the sitting president of the goddamn country? Just food for thought.
And, you know, Epstein was saying all of this, and then all of a sudden he was unalive one way or the other, according to the media.
Now for an even crazier one. Number 13. How many people remember this right here? The weird Bill Clinton painting that Epstein had with a blue dress and red high heels? Anyone? Okay, well, keeping in mind that this
Allegedly, this painting, I believe, is in the New York condo, the mansion. It was there. And remember, I took you guys on a tour where I showed you that mansion that was upper Manhattan, right above Trump Towers. I'd say I walked additional 10 blocks or so. So they were, in essence, in New York, they were neighbors, Epstein and Trump. But at any rate, let's see how Bill Clinton and why everybody's going crazy on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and mentioning Bill Clinton.
painting was owned by Epstein and hanging in his Manhattan home. Let's take a look at this particular email thread between
Folks, pay close attention. This is the email that has people going crazy.
Jeffrey Epstein and Mark Epstein, his brother, in 2018, which says, quote, "How are you doing? All good. Bannon with me. Ask him if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing Bubba. And I thought I had Cirrus. You and your boy Donnie can make a remake of the movie Get Hard. You mean Donnie T." End quote. For the sake of clarity right now, just in case anybody didn't pick up on this, he doesn't say if Putin has photos. He says if Putin has the photos, implying their defense.
So according to this email on Wednesday, March 21, 2018, Epstein sent this to his brother, Mark. He says, ask him if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing Bubba. My God, what a shame. And he identifies who Bubba is in this particular email.
Of existence. And Bubba, by the way, is one of Bill Clinton's nicknames. I have absolutely no idea what these emails actually mean, but I can certainly see why the Trump administration
And again, none of this can be truly confirmed. I just want to make this clear, but this is what has even the young kids are going crazy about this. They can't believe that allegedly, and there's so many memes of Donald Trump and Bill Clinton floating around. Like when you go to these different social platforms, everybody's making a mockery out of Donald Trump in regards to Bill Clinton. And well, in fact, they're calling him Donica Malinsky, I believe.
is so very desperate to stop the release of the Epstein files. This is a nightmare for them. Number 12, a simple email.
We still have 12 to go. If you thought that was bad, there's still more, not even the worst.
From Michael Wolff, quote, "There's an opportunity to come forward this week and talk about Trump in such a way that could garner you great sympathy and help finish him. Interested?" End quote. Number 11. This one is with Linda Stone in September of 2015 and says, quote, "Wondering if the fact that so many people are on antidepressant, ADHD, and other drugs is what makes Trump appealing and his flaws invisible."
Okay, guys, we're going to get to some of the comments to try to bring some balance to all of this. Okay. Marky Mark says, Bubba is a saxophone. Okay. Billy R says, you'll never get the time you spend following this poison carrot. Trump is a stable genius. What's the definition of insanity? Keep believing the enemy's bullshit. All right. Betty says, you're full of it. Okay. Teresa says, blowing Bubba was only a figure of speech. On another note, Trump is more concerned with the financial crimes with Epstein. Okay. A says, it's sad to watch the decline of humanity before my eyes. Okay, Marky Mark says, Bubba is a saxophone. Thank you for that. Robert Torres says, MAGA don't care if they caught Trump doing it. In fact, Donald Trump said that if he could stand in Times Square and actually unalive someone, then people would be so forgiven. It's a great point. Marky Mark says, Hillary got Epstein. Okay.
Will you have a cabinet position? She's asking Jeffrey Epstein if he'll have a fucking cabinet position with Trump in 2015. After which she also says, do you think he can win? Speak, please. What do you think? To which he replies, too far to tell. We will know much more come October 15th. But then, after she asks, you still in Paris? Epstein says, Trump Tower. Keep in mind, we have been repeatedly told to believe that the two separated completely.
So here's 2016. Epstein says that he's at Trump's towers, much different than the narrative we've heard of them splitting up in 2007.
Sometime in the early 2000s. But if that's true, why would Epstein's close friend be asking him whether or not he'll have a cabinet position while he stays at Trump Tower? Number 10. This exchange is between a Qatari businessman, I believe, named Jabor Y, and Epstein, where he says, quote, in Paris today, headed for New York. Trump gives many new things to do, end quote. Once again, casting a very long, very deep shadow over the idea that these two men parted ways a decade earlier and never spoke again. There's a lot of corroboration that tale, that story, that talking point that they've been giving for like
20. And these appear to just be normal emails that Epstein is just going on with his life. So that's something to keep in mind too.
20 years is not true. Number 9. Once again, Epstein and this Jabor Y person, quote, sorry, I just checked your email. What time you will leave to the airport? I hope you are in a better place now than New York. Sorry, yes, Palm Beach, all Trump people here, end quote. Again, 2016, all Trump people in Palm Beach, but somehow the president knows nothing about him and never spoke to him since 2004.
Wow, that's something to think about, right? Wow, all of this stuff is coming out. All right, let's get to a few of the comments here. Mark says lots of people go to Trump Tower. Okay. JDP says like, share, and subscribe, and turn on your notifications to be notified of upcoming shows. A Fucross says warned about our educational system too. Hopeless, welcome into you, says who cares? Both businessmen, you mix personal life and business life. And hey, who knows who really had Epstein illuminated? Okay. David says, I like that, illuminated. David McKee says, rich people sin different. Exactly. I learned that by covering Sean Diddy Combs' trial. Rich people have a different level of sinning. Tracy Love says, Epstein was trying to be cool, name dropping Trump. Okay, nothing nefarious there. Marky Mark says, exactly. Tracy. Brian Kentrell, always nice to hear from you, Brian. MAGA would have a problem if Trump was found guilty of this. But as it stands now, no truth has been found. Democrats love to twist things to their favor. So sad. Okay, Hopeless says, them emails can be completely fabricated, as CNN has stated. Exactly. That's why I make sure I mention that as well. We really can't confirm it, but it makes a good discussion tonight, allegedly. All right. Rasputin says Trump is pure scum. Wow. Marky Mark says subscribe, double tap. Thank you, Marky Mark. Shout out to you for your support. Hopeless says this is all Dim's way of trying to get back at the people they lost. Okay. Tracy Love says Marky Mark. Now they believe everything Epstein said. Okay. Be more. Bigfoot says Trump did turn him in. Okay. All right. So Trump was working as an agent for the government against Epstein. Is that what you're saying? I've heard that a lot. Marky Mark says, right, Tracy. BJ Preachy says, Russia, 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 take two. Okay. Hopeless says, this would all have been brought forward already. All right. And one last one from Tracy Love says, Trump banned Epstein and turned him in. Trump. Okay. Let's get back to these emails.
None of it adds up. Number 8. This is between Epstein and Tom Barrack or Tom Barack, however you say that. Closely connected fundraiser and senior advisor to Trump's campaign. Just keep that in mind. This thread is from 2016. Quote, hope you are well. Photos look good. FYI, I receive many calls a week about both Donald, beauty contest, Mar-a-Lago, etc., and Clinton from reporters. Less so recently with Clinton, but my answers are always I have nothing to say, or I try to ignore altogether. A few times I've been ambushed on the street with questions, but I am more careful now. Followed by send photos of you and child. Make me smile. Sure, that could be innocent. Send a few wholesome family photographs, but A, this is Jeffrey Epstein that we're talking about right now, and B,
So this is 2016. Epstein is basically saying that he's still involved with Donald Trump and Clinton.
this is communication about Epstein refusing to answer incriminating questions between him and Trump's own senior advisor in 2016. 7. Good old Landon Thomas comes back around here with an email exchange that appears to be warning Epstein, reading, quote, he is
Okay, so this is a warning here. Antonio says Tracy sounds like she wished she would be one of those girls. Oh my. Marky Mark says, thanks, Mel, for the great journalism. Thank you, Marky Mark. Marky Mark and I, we don't always agree. We have different positions, but we get along so well, and we have a meeting of the minds as we try to deal with the intellect, right? Red or Dead says, TDS is MAGA believing anything Trump says. Oh my. Hopeless says, this van be AI, guys. Okay, let's get to it and see what this warning is about.
digging around again. Not clear if it's another book or expanded paperback version. Was asking me all sorts of questions about why you hired Ken Starr. I told him I had no idea. I think he is doing some Trump related digging too. Anyway, for what it's worth. End quote. Why on earth is a New York Times journalist warning Jeffrey Epstein and giving him a heads up that someone is looking into him and Trump?
You know, Epstein had people in all places. You have someone here from the New York Times giving him a heads up in regards to some snooping happening in regards to Donald J. Trump.
Why is that happening? And why is that happening at that time during that year? Number 6, Landon Thomas to Jeffrey Epstein, quote, he is scaring the shit out of me now. He could well tank the global economy. Can Barack talk sense to him anymore? Maybe it's time for you to jump in now. Given how he is throwing caution to the wind in such epic fashion, why wouldn't he take your call? Give it a shot. To which Epstein replies, he feels alone and is nuts. I told everyone from day one, evil beyond belief mad, and most thought I was speaking metaphorically. It's obvious he could crack. Stormy Daniels, lies after lies after lies, end quote.
Okay, so you see what's happening there. Brian Cantrell says, Jesus says, woe to the ones that hurt the little ones. God, the creator, will take care of this. I think you're referring to Matthew chapter 18, and maybe I think it's expressed in Mark chapter 11 also. All right, thank you for that point. Marky Mark says Clinton went to the island 26 plus times. Trump never went to the island. Never, never. Okay. Be More Bigfoot says no one knew what Epstein was doing. Marky Mark says I've been to the island. Okay. JDP says enjoy what you're watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and consider becoming a member. All right, beautiful. JDP, you're one of a kind. Red or Dead says Trump never shut up about the Epstein files, but now he's in power. It's all a hoax. LOL. Okay.
The world's most notorious sex trafficker, okay, directly referring to the sitting president as evil beyond belief. Number 5, inexplicable.
So you hear that? Epstein, the world's biggest S trafficker, calling Donald Trump evil beyond compare. Isn't that something, folks?
Apparently emailed to himself from another account he controlled, Epstein sends a very long list of names. Rothschild, Rumler, Churkin, Schumer, Rockefeller, some names we know, some names we don't, across a wide range of political affiliations and business sectors. But that email is titled List for Bannon Steve, and it was sent in June of 2019. 1 month later, Epstein faced his second arrest. I don't know what that list is for. I don't know all the people that are on it, right? I don't recognize all of these names, but I can tell you that this is a tiny little fraction of the files that are being withheld from.
Wow, he had Chuck Schumer. He has Schumer on there. I'm just saying perhaps it could be, but that's a vast list of powerful names that Epstein had basically sent to Steve Bannon.
From the public, and that the level of discrepancy between what we now see in black and white correspondence versus what the current administration has been incessantly claiming is unignorable. They are not telling the truth. Number
Wow, he had Rockefeller on there.
4. Now for some of the most damning things, okay? In a 2018 email thread between Epstein and Thorbjorn Jagland, we can see, quote, I think you might suggest to Putin that Lavrov can get insight on talking to me. Vitaly Churkin used to, but he died. After which Epstein continues later, Churkin was great. He understood Trump after our conversations. It's not complex. He must be seen to get something. It's that simple, end quote. Let's get something straight right now, okay? This is email evidence in 2018 of Jeffrey Epstein, who has repeatedly claimed explicitly to hold compromising information about sitting President Donald Trump, talking to the former Norwegian prime minister and saying that he coached Russia on how to handle Donald Trump. I don't
Wow, that is insane. If true, that would be so damning, right?
care who you are or what politics or loyalty or affiliations you have. That's a fucking problem. Number 3. These last 3 are some of the most common. They're the ones that mainstream media have been fixating on, I guess, the most.
Okay, so these last 3 I've been going over all week. We're still going to go through it, but let me get you some of these precious comments. Marky Mark says Rothschild was on the island. Oh my. Okay, BJ Breachy says that's because Donald Trump was taking down Epstein and working busts behind the scenes to help the victims. Okay, well, that's a new spin. Robert Torres says Trump was best friends with Epstein for 15 years, but Trump knows nothing. Yeah, right. Only MAGA is buying that. Only MAGA is drinking the Kool-Aid. That's basically what he's saying. Thank you, Robert, for your comment. Brian Kentrell says, okay, Grossum says BB and Putin got the pics. Okay, they got the information. Maybe that's something to look into. JM says, you think Trump blew the horse or Bill? Oh, my God. Alvon Phillips says, man, the rich and powerful people lifestyle is worse than the people living in the ghetto or in the streets. They're only rich, that's all. Red or Dead says, what about Bubba? That's what everybody wants to know. What happened with Bubba?
But there's a very good reason for that. From Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell, quote, I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump.
Okay, so Epstein wrote to Ghislaine Maxwell, who says that Donald Trump and Epstein really didn't even know each other. He says, I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Wow, isn't that something?
Virginia spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75.
Now, remember when the media put this out during the week, they had Virginia name redacted here. So now in this email, it identifies Virginia as the female that spent hours at the house with Donald Trump. Okay, he has never once been mentioned, police chief. So, wow, he called Donald Trump, Epstein called Trump the dog that hadn't barked.
% there, to which Maxwell replies, I've been thinking about that, end quote. Number 2, email to Michael Wolff, quote, blank, Virginia Giuffre. We know that because of context now.
Now, guys, Michael Wolff, he's a biographer who wrote about Donald Trump. He also wrote about Epstein tremendously. So let's see what occurred.
Blank worked at Mar-a-Lago. She was the one that accused Prince Andrew. Trump said he asked me to resign. Never a member ever. Of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop.
Okay, so there you have it. Epstein, if this is accurate, he at least says that Donald Trump knew about the girls. And Donald Trump actually on video did express that Epstein had taken Virginia Giuffre from Mar-a-Lago. She used to work there, I believe, in the spa. And he took her, he recruited her to go do his work, his fake ministry.
End quote. And then lastly, number 1, the big cheese.
All right, here's the big one, guys.
From Michael Wolff to Jeffrey Epstein at the end of 2015, quote, I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in scrum afterwards. Epstein replies, if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? Why the fuck would they be able to craft an answer for him is the real question. And then finally, quote, I think you should let him hang himself if he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House. Then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really
Now, what's so ironic about this is that they're talking about how to hang the chief man of all time, right? And that's actually how Epstein ended up unaliving or leaving here. Isn't that something? The trap he was trying to set figuratively turned out to be his way of being out of here.
looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and he's gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime. End quote. Those 21 emails, okay, I'll just let people kind of mull over and unpack those for themselves. Those 21 emails, although in proper context, I am absolutely positive that there's more, let alone the rest of the files that are being suppressed and withheld, but by this overtly corrupt administration. Those 21 email threads, let's call them, are the notable standouts of the latest Epstein document release that I saw. And if you go
So, guys, we're about to get really into this whole thing now. We're going to see how Donald Trump responds. We're going to see how big media is responding to all of this, especially when it comes to Bill Clinton being caught up in the mix. Would be interesting to know his position on it. Brian Cantrell says SOMAGA is called delusional because they are supposedly hearsay. Problem is, we have proof of Democrats and lies over so many different allegations. Okay, thank you for breaking that down, Brian. Brian is always on point. Marky Mark says Hillary got Epstein. Okay, J Roar 123, welcome in. Nice to have you here. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing. Please come back and hang out with us. We do this all the time. J Roar says Trump never committed a crime. Trump banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago. But that's not the real issue. That has to do with Democrats losing on the shutdown. Okay, they have sour grapes. Is that what you're saying? Gary says Trump never flew on any plane of Epstein's or went to island libtards. I did see the log, and according to the log, Donald Trump's name allegedly is on it from what I saw. BJ Breachy says, yes, Trump told her that if something is happening, it better stop. Okay. Juan says, tomorrow is the big day. Okay, tell us all about it. Break it down for us, Juan. Teresa Allred says Epstein was trying to get others to roll on Trump without Trump knowing it was him. Okay, he was a sneaky rat. Okay, Red or Dead says Clinton, Trump, whoever, locked them all up. Okay, do you want to throw away the key? All right. Motor Scooter says, who's Bubba? Well, we went over that. According to what's expressed here, Bubba used to be a president, allegedly, of the United States. Dwayne Curry says they're crazy. Okay. Marky Mark says Don Jr., not his dad. Okay, let's finish this up and move on.
back across the saga thus far, these emails make it abundantly clear, overwhelmingly clear, that pretty much everyone involved has been lying through their teeth the entire time, and that the truth is absolutely horrific.
Guys, how do we survive in a world where we're just being lied to? Everybody lies, even at the top seats of the world. People just lie, and you don't know what to believe anymore, right?
For Donald Trump. Like I said before, this is a developing story across many months that I'll talk about to the bitter end over and over. But for now, that's it.
Okay, very good. So we're going to move on here. We're going to check out and take a different spin and see what's happening in regards to the Epstein files. Let's check out let's see, Bondi to investigate Bill Clinton. Donald Trump wants all this to occur. Let's check it out.
I want to bring in MSNBC's Vaughn Hilliard, who's covering the White House. Eugene Robinson is a Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist and MSNBC political analyst. Tyler Pager.
Guys, Motor Scooter says that's some sick BS. Okay, Eric Fuentes says the rich use religion and fear to get their way. Exactly. You could say that again. Candyman's in the building. Candyman says, just remember 99.9% of everyone in these emails are Democrats. LOL. Okay, Eric is in the building. Okay, Brian Cantrell says, Mel, we survive in this world by living life through Jesus. He's the only way. Okay, the truth and the life. Is that what you're saying? Thank you so much for your commentary on that. And I believe that's it. Let's go back and see if we missed anybody. Brian Cantrell says, Motor, I think Bubba is Clinton. Okay, according to what they're saying, Candyman says, hey, I say, hey, back at you. Marky Mark says, that's right, the Democrats. Okay, he's pointing all fingers at Democrats.
Is the New York Times White House correspondent and co-author of 2024, How Trump Retook the White House and Democrats Lost America. Tara Setmayer is former GOP communications director, as well as co-founder and CEO of the Seneca Project. Eugene, there has been a consistent message from survivors and many of their supporters about the efforts to release these files. This is about justice. This is about standing up against heinous acts. This is not about politics.
So I just want to mention the broadcaster here. I was in line with her at Donald Trump's trial. She was really nice in person, took a lot of pictures with her. She was very knowledgeable, but she attended Donald Trump's trial, the one where he obtained 34 felonies.
Is that why the administration's political messaging isn't working?
You know, the administration is usually a lot better on political messaging than it is on the Epstein case. And one big reason is Donald Trump, President Trump. The Wall Street Journal is absolutely right. He keeps acting as if he has some horrible thing to hide, even though I've not seen any evidence, certainly not any hard evidence, that says he's guilty.
Yeah, I think he needs a crisis manager. Guys, hit the like button if you don't mind. Thank you very much. Marky Mark says Clinton did go by Bubba, but he also called, let's see, I can't see that anymore. 1 second here. He also called, his saxophone Bubba. Okay, Scooter says America first, America first. Okay, Brian Cantrell says Red, laugh out loud. Says Enter the Dragon, the movie. Okay, with Bruce Lee, show the same thing about Epstein. Okay, Marky Mark says, I like Eugene. Okay, all right, let's see what's happening here.
Of anything in terms of Epstein and the young girls, yet he acts as if he is. And this extraordinary effort, for example, just in the last couple of days to somehow get Republicans to take their name off the discharge petition in the House. It just adds to the series of actions that make him look guilty, even if he isn't.
So, Tara, let me play a little bit more of what Sky Roberts said in response to the administration's claims that this is all a hoax.
I want to be very clear. If my sister was here today, she would be appalled.
Guys, this is Virginia Dufresne's brother here.
By this administration. She would not refer to President Trump as a gentleman. He's not acknowledging survivors. Not once has he even acknowledged my sister in the sense of who she was.
And again, for those of you that just came in, his sister, Virginia Dufresne, used to work at Mar-a-Lago. Donald Trump himself stated on video, we have the video, that Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell basically recruited the young lady from Mar-a-Lago to go do the terrible things that occurred earlier this year. She unalived herself because of all the trauma that she went through. This is her brother.
A hero. I just think it's time to put a little respect on her name and all survivors' names and treat them as heroes. And stop and just stop the nonsense, this political BS that just keeps coming out of his mouth and the administration's mouth. It needs to stop.
I mean, Tara, a little empathy can go a very long way for the survivors, for their families who have been just waiting for justice. How do you see the way the White House and this president are handling this?
Well, it's a disaster for them, and it has been.
I'd like for you guys to answer the same question. How do you feel the White House and the president is handling this situation? Do you feel like there's something nefarious, or do you think the president is clean from any guilt in this particular scenario?
From day one. And this is something, the Epstein saga has plagued Donald Trump for years, which is why he's bending over backwards to try to bury the truth from coming out. This is not the type of behavior of someone who's completely innocent in the situation. If everything was above board, then the files would have been released on day one like he promised. Or like his attorney general claimed that there were files sitting on her desk months ago when she was on Fox News, and those files all of a sudden disappeared. And what about, why would you have 1,000 FBI agents wasting their time going through the files if there was to look for Donald Trump's name, if there was nothing to be concerned about? I mean, the pattern here is incredulous. I mean, the people are looking at this and saying, this is not how you behave if you have nothing to hide. And the absolute lack of empathy, the lack of compassion.
All right. Does it come across as they have something to hide just because of the way it's being handled? Let's check out some of the comments here. Natalia, welcome in. Nice to have you. Says exactly. Marky Mark says, nothing to see here. Okay. Fred Wright says, Dems getting advice from Epstein. That's too funny. Red or Dead says, MAGA defending PDF files. Oh, my goodness. Fred Wright says, Dems defending Epstein. Okay. Says, in the movie Enter the Dragon shows a woman who is like Maxwell. All right. Thank you for that insight. Marky Mark says, that's right. To Candyman. Red or Dead says, MSNBC lie. What about Fox and Trump? LOL. Okay. Candyman says, and Trump had Epstein arrested for it back in the early 2000s. Okay. All right. Let's keep moving here. Love Thy Brother says, MAGA is falling. Plenty of MAGA voters are burning their hats. I saw that. And I think a lot of that had to do with the Bill Clinton issue that came out, because there's some allegations with Donald Trump and Bill Clinton in connection with Russia that we already covered to a certain extent. And guys, this is all allegedly, and we don't know the real truth of the matter, but it's just what's happening right now. Sean Washington says, come on, it's politics. They clean up everything. Okay. Every president has dirt on them, especially by the time they leave office. Amen. Richard Brown says, one bed fits all. Oh, my. Okay. Leviticus 1971 says, Forrest Trump is now the captain of the Bubba Shrimp boat. My God. Red or Dead says, imagine if Biden released the files. It's all fake news, a hoax. Russia. You so predictable. Okay. Mark Jag says 60% of increase of housing was created by the influx of illegal immigrants. Speak on it. Tell us all about it, Mark. Thank you. Eric Erickson says, who's next on the Epstein list? MAGA. Oh, my.
And the lack of concern for the survivors of this despicable human being, I think also speaks volumes. And that's why you see this reaction, this visceral reaction from so many people across party lines. Very few things have unified this country. But I think that what you're seeing happen right now, there is a certain amount of empathy. When you have Marjorie Taylor Greene and AOC on the same side of an issue, that speaks volumes. And the dam could potentially be.
Are you guys surprised about Marjorie Taylor Greene and how she seems to be switching up? Are you shocked by that?
Breaking here with MAGA. And because these Republicans are looking at the way Donald Trump is handling this and saying, release the files already, or we're not going to align with you if you're continuing to obfuscate over a sex trafficker pedophile. And then also you juxtapose that with the preferential treatment of Ghislaine Maxwell, which is something else that's a complete outrage. And what a disrespect and spit in the face to the survivors of this woman and what she did with Jeffrey Epstein. And I think collectively, the American people are looking at the situation and saying this is the acts of an unhinged president who has something to hide. And
Well, there you have it. There's a photo of Donald Trump and Ghislaine Maxwell. But now she's saying that Donald Trump and Epstein really didn't have any major dealings with each other. Can you trust her? Do you believe everything she's saying, folks? Tell us about it.
Dam is starting to break, and it should. There needs to be accountability. Enough is enough.
And Vaughn, I think it's worth noting that the president, who I think it's an understatement to say he typically does not shy away from a camera, has refused at least twice to answer questions about Jeffrey Epstein or the emails, but he is posting about it. So what's he saying?
So here's my question to you guys. If the president is performing well, you're making money, and life is peaceful, is that enough to cause you to look the other way if some major news came out that was credible in regards to the Epstein files? Would you turn the other cheek or turn the other way if the president is doing a great job with the economy?
Right, and this is where it gets difficult to understand the extent to which the
Okay, so we're going to move on. Let's get another spin on this as well. We're going to see what's happening here as well. Let's see.
Joining us now is former federal prosecutor and senior writer for Politico magazine, Ankush Kadori, and MSNBC political analyst and opinion columnist at the New York Times, Michelle Goldberg. Ankush,
And by the way, guys, we're going to have some Fox and some CNN. We try to have a balance of information coming through, not too much of anything.
Parrot what Simone just said, you'd think, right? Like any person with basic logic would think that the DOJ would be interested in this. If the demand were legitimate, wouldn't they just have opened the investigation months ago?
Yes, Teresa, by the way, Jesse Jackson is preparing to leave this world. Yes, indeed. It's a sad moment. A gentleman that has contributed a lot to this country, I believe. Candyman says no one is above the law. Okay. Love Thy Neighbor says no. Either way, those were children. Okay. Red or Dead says, why did Trump put Maxwell into a minimum security prison and being pampered? That's what we started off this show talking about as well. J666 says, why should it matter who's in charge if Dumpy Diaper Pants is a diaper sniper? He needs to go to prison. Oh my. In Too Deep says there is no connection. Okay, no connection. Who is in charge of, let's see, the comments are moving so fast. There's no connection with Trump, and the victims already stated that they can't release all files because of witness protection. Okay, thank you. Sherry Brown says, but he's not doing a good job on the economy. Good point.
Yes. I mean, at any point they could have reopened this investigation. Whether that's a good idea is a separate matter. But yeah, no, this coming when it does now, I mean, it just appears to be what it appears to be. The president trying to deflect from a burgeoning political scandal. It's an abuse of authority, a corruption of the Justice Department's integrity and mandate to be just blatantly used for partisan political purposes in order to shield the president from public and political scrutiny.
And Michelle, help me understand something here. So ever since the big Epstein dump of emails hit earlier this week, the president's out there saying, like, this whole thing is a hoax. Whole thing is a hoax. So, Michelle, if this whole thing is a hoax, why is the president calling on the Justice Department to look into President Clinton, J.P. Morgan, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, and all these other people related to the Epstein files?
Look, obviously the president is not known for internal consistency. My worry about this, I mean, look, if the Justice Department wants to investigate Epstein's ties to J.P. Morgan and Chase and even, Lawrence Summers, have at it. They probably should have done that ages ago, although I suspect if there was anything there to be found, they would have jumped in that already. I wonder if the reason that the president wants this investigation open now is because there's going to be a vote next week that's likely to get significant Republican support to release the files. There will be a lot of pressure then for it to be taken up in the Senate, and it could end up on his desk. And so he gives him, and maybe Republicans who want to stand with him, at least a kind of thin pretext to say, well, we can't release these files.
Guys, some in the comment section, BJ Preacher is saying that J.D. Vance would be an amazing president. Do you guys feel that way?
Files when the investigation is open, which is, by the way, probably why the files weren't released during the Biden administration.
I mean, to Michelle's point, the Biden administration officials at the time and then afterwards have said that there was an open investigation during the administration.
Guys, please take a moment to hit the like button. I really do appreciate the support.
And Ghislaine Maxwell had appealed to the Supreme Court. Her appeal had not yet been heard or taken up or anything. And so they weren't releasing anything. But I want to remind everyone at home.
And be sure to come back tomorrow for News at Noon. We do that every day, folks.
That according to the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, the emails in question right now, the Justice Department didn't have. According to Todd Blanche, the Epstein estate had these emails. According to the Epstein estate, allegedly, I'm just telling you what the Epstein estate said, y'all. The Epstein estate said the Justice Department never asked them for this, not They don't have any recent requests from the Justice Department. The requests that they had were from the House Oversight Committee, and they complied with the requests that they had. And that's where we got these emails. You know, Donald Trump wants to talk about Bill Clinton. Let's talk about Bill Clinton. Was he on the island? Well, Epstein emailed to Michael Wolff about Bill Clinton sent on January 2015. Email, Clinton was never, ever there. All right, well, guess that closes that part of the investigation. Epstein email. I want to know about Donald Trump and Thanksgiving. How about that? Ankush, treat this up for you. There's some takeaways from new emails about Trump and his late friend Epstein. Epstein claimed he was spending Thanksgiving in 2017 with Trump. According to White House records, Trump spent Thanksgiving of 2017, his first as president, at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Palm Beach. The White House did not disclose the guest list. Ankush, everybody but Donald Trump apparently needs to be investigated for the emails. Why is the president acting like he is implicated as a pedophile in these emails? No one's ever said the president was a pedophile. He's the only person acting guilty.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to say that there has not been evidence that he was engaged in or aware of criminal misconduct. I've said this before, I think even here, I was not a fan of the release all the files thing, because what happens is this: you get emails, you don't understand the context, you don't even know. I mean, we're talking about relying on the word of Jeffrey Epstein, who's writing some of these emails. Why would we assume?
Who is a monster? We should say Jeffrey Epstein is a monster. He is a child trafficker, a sex trafficker, a pedophile, and his crimes were.
Ooh, those are some strong words to use for Donald Trump when he has all the power, right? He's been turning the tables on so many people. A lot of people are not happy with J.D. Vance becoming the president. They says, no, good, we good, bro. We good over here. Okay, BJ Breachy says J.D. Vance would make an amazing president. Okay, Brian Cantrell says, I agree that Maxwell should not be in the minimum security prison. In fact, in the minimum security prison, you shouldn't be there, I believe, according to the stipulations, if you are guilty of SA in her case. So that's a big red flag. Robert Torres says MAGA knows he's lying. They just don't care. Party over humanity. Okay, Bruce Young, welcome in. Nice to have you here. Says, I'm not so sure he'd be very good for the job. There's something about that guy. I can't put my finger on it. Isn't there some video or something about him making out with a couch or something? I saw that before. Sean Washington says, nah, bro, we good on that. Talking about J.D. Vance. Robert Torres says, J.D. is bought by Israel lobby. Okay. Aunt Willie says, weak men. Teresa says, amazing for you. Don't speak for me. He's pretty uneducated. Okay. Red or Dead says Maxwell gets a pardon. She has dirt on Trump. Okay. Wow. Chris Holmes, welcome in, says Trump is a liar and a fraud. Brian Cantrell says not only will J.D. Vance be a great president, he will be the next president. Okay. Candyman says the crimes weren't a hoax, but this hype coming from the left is a hoax. No one is going to jail. This is a waste of hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayers' money. Zeke 2911 says, what kind of Christian marries a Hindu? Exactly. Seems like he wants his wife to convert to Christianity from what I'm seeing in his statements.
Real. But these emails were written, many of them, they go back to like early 2000s.
Well, this is the thing: is even if you accept that, you accept sort of my view of the situation, Trump is clearly acting like he has something to hide, or that he is hiding something on someone else's behalf. Now, I don't know.
Do you guys agree with that? Do you feel like Donald Trump is acting like he has something to hide? Tell us about it.
Oh, if that's true, but all of this hemming and hawing all year, right? Going back and forth on what's in the files, and we're talking about it. There's going to be this big, elaborate, release. Then they pare it all back, and there's nothing to see here.
Okay, guys, so we're going to move on. Let's see what's going on here with Venezuela from Fox and Friends.
Have you made up your mind on what you'd like to do for as far as action?
I sort of made up my mind. I mean, I can't tell you what it would be, but I sort of made it.
President Trump puts Venezuela on notice as the Pentagon launches Operation Southern Spear. This is now a named operation to target narco-terrorist networks across Latin America. Let's break it all down here at the Wall. About 25% of all deployed U.S. warships are now in the Caribbean with the arrival of USS Gerald.
So many people who view the channel love Fox. So can we get a like? Can you get a like for a little Fox today?
Ford, the newest and largest warship in the U.S. Navy's inventory, joined by dozens of other warships, including guided missile destroyers, have a few guided missile cruisers in there, Lake Erie, USS Iwo Jima, an amphibious assault ship, of course, loaded out with 2,000 Marines in full.
So tell us in the comments, what is this all about? Do you think this is just about drugs? What's going on in Venezuela?
Combat load, all taking place, of course, just here off the coast of Venezuela. And don't forget, we have B-52 bombers from Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana. We have fifth-generation F-35 fighter jets in Roosevelt Roads, Puerto Rico over here. That's an old Navy base that was been shuttered for many years, now back. And of course, all this to combat the narco-terrorists that have been smuggling drugs across the Caribbean. And there's been 20 strikes against these suspected drug smuggling vessels, killing dozens. And right here, you also see the
Wow, none of your business says fishing boats. That's too funny.
oilers have arrived here as well. Of course, when the USS Gerald Ford arrives, it's the newest aircraft carrier. You have to refuel that. Of course, it has 2 nuclear power plants on board that aircraft carrier, but you have to refuel the jet aircraft. And in addition to the bombers, of course, you have the Marines, you have the F-35s. We talked about that in Puerto Rico. Again, about a quarter of all U.S. Navy warships deployed in the world right now are here off the coast of Venezuela in the Caribbean, ready for any potential orders from the commander-in-chief to strike. And with that, let's bring in our guest, Rebecca Heinrichs, Hudson Institute Senior Fellow and Foreign Policy Expert, no stranger to the program. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning, Lucas. Good to see you.
Do you think regime change is possible in Venezuela? Something we've heard many questions asked to President Trump.
Well, I think that President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been pretty clear that this is really to pressure the regime to stop sending drugs, that the Maduro regime is a narco-terrorist organization. It allows its territory to be used for the shipment of drugs, trafficking. And so that is the primary reason that has been given. But as you point out, Lucas, that's a lot.
Okay, let's get a little insight from the audience here. Slayers of You says Donald Trump is trying to cover up and literally going to war to avoid Epstein files. LOL. You guys support a PDF. Sick Republicans. Okay. Motor Scooter says distracting from his dirty deeds. Okay. All right. Cavalier KC says no, Fox sucks. Okay. So you don't like Fox. Others don't like CNN. It's never going to be a lovely day. Robert says the oil, they want to steal the oil. Okay. Jeb Common says looking for regime change in Venezuela, a leader that is more reasonable and cooperative. Okay. Red or Dead says he's going to war to distract from the Epstein files and the costs at home. Okay. Jerry, what the freak says, and you know this how? Okay. That's referring to someone else. Shane Cruz says it's all about the oil and distractions. Jimmy Burr says we have way more oil than they do. Okay. Blue Ocean says, Red, you're stupid. Zeke says they fly drugs in now. Okay, let's get back to it.
The firepower in the region. And so I think really it's an enormous effort to pressure Maduro to stop this narco-terrorism. But also, I think it also is to perhaps incentivize some of the military around Maduro, potentially to pressure Maduro to leave, to maybe encourage Maduro to leave on his own. I'm very skeptical that he will. I'm also very skeptical, Lucas, that the United States is going to go forward with what would amount to the necessary force needed for regime change to something more peaceful in the region.
One of the things we talked about with all these warships in the Ford strike group, of course, the guided missile destroyers and some of the cruisers that are out there, of course, they're armed with dozens of Tomahawk cruise missiles. If President Trump were to order some kind of strikes on Venezuela, what would the target set look like, Rebecca? And should force be necessary, would you be recommending strikes against the Maduro regime inside Venezuela?
Well, President Trump's administration has been really pretty close, keeping its cards close to its vest about what some of the intelligence they have and what they're actually looking at inside Venezuela. So I wouldn't be able to.
Okay. Zante says maybe he's doing what he said. Fentanyl's all over the place. Red or Dead says he's committing war crimes. That's why the UK has denied intelligence. Okay. Blue Ocean, welcome back, says no files because all the Democrat elites are on there. Okay. Carol Lawler says it's more than reason. Stop drugs, change in power, oil control and control shipping routes. Any thoughts? Okay. Thank you for that. And Teresa says that fentanyl not coming from Venezuela. Okay. Explain that some more for us. Jimmy Burris says, how is it was crimes and we're not at war? Okay, so let's finish this up.
To give advice, but I would say that if there are strikes, I would speculate that those strikes would be against the cartels, drugs specifically, not targets that would threaten the Maduro regime proper. The reason for that, Lucas, is that the Maduro regime is obviously militarily inferior to the United States, but it's also backed by the Russians and the Chinese and the Cubans. And we learned this back in 2019 when
they say the Chinese are supporting Venezuela, so that might turn into a drag out. Dream Big Dream says traitor Trump is the worst president in the history of America twice. Okay. Brian Cantrell says no fishing boats have been bombed, only drug boats. Curtis Gill says at the end of this, all this crap going on, Trump will come out on top and still be president. Okay. Do you think he'll be president again in 2028?
Russians sent forces into Venezuela to kind of back Maduro and to intimidate the United States. So I think it would be a mess for the United States to get involved in regime change specifically because it would take a lot of U.S. power to get opposition forces that we want, the pro-democracy.
We have 500 people. Can we get 500 likes? Thank you very much.
People in power in Venezuela. So I think this is more intimidation, Lucas, and then also the strikes would be against the cartel organizations and the cocaine operations that is ongoing in Venezuela.
And one of the assets not listed on the board, of course, are Reaper drones. That's what's been carrying out the vast majority of those strikes on those drug boats. Let's look ahead, Rebecca, to this week when President Trump hosts the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
Okay, so they says Robert Torres says pedo 2028. Jimmy says Trump 2028. Dream Big says traitor Trump will be removed. Okay. Mark Sparks says Trump is the greatest. Teresa says China sends all the chemicals to make fentanyl, but not all through Venezuela. Zeke says Obama 2028. Okay. Red or Dead says PDF 2028. Okay. Ron Black says Donald J. Trump is the greatest president. James Nichols says the strikes so far are likely illegal under international law. The government has not provided conclusive evidence of the boats carrying out drug smuggling operations. Joyce Crumley says dump Trump. Okay, JDP says please like, share, and subscribe. Double tap your screen. Thank you guys so much. We're going to move on here. We have 2 more videos to go before we wrap up today. Let's check out and see what's happening in regards to who's being protected by Donald Trump. Okay, are you guys still able to hear me? Can you hear me? Put a 1 in the chat if you can still hear me. If we still have sound, put a 1 in the chat. Can't hear. Okay, give me 1 second here. Guys, hang tight. And let's see if we can fix this. Okay.
In the House, follow your lead and defy the president on this.
Okay, are you guys able to hear that? Put a 1 in the chat if you're able to hear now. Put a 1 in the chat. Okay, you can hear. Great. Let's check it out.
I think we could have a deluge of Republicans. There could be 100 or more. I'm hoping to get a veto-proof majority on this legislation when it comes up for a vote. And, you know, the president's been saying this is a hoax. He's been saying that for months. Well, he's just now decided to investigate a hoax, if it's a hoax. And I have another concern about these investigations that he's announced. if they have ongoing investigations in certain areas, those documents can't be released. So this might be a big smokescreen, these investigations, to open a bunch of them as a last ditch effort to prevent the release of the Epstein files.
Thank you, Cavalier.
I mean, it is extraordinary to hear him demand an investigation and only.
Welcome in, Cali Unplugged. Nice to have you here. Lock in with us. Was Blind says this guy's an idiot. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Let's see. XY says voted for Trump, but not a Trumper anymore. He's a globalist and the closest Democrat like you. Okay. All right. Frank Bill says, so did the Dems multiple times. Biden and Obama did. Okay. Thank you.
Only mention Democrats, only mention his political opponents, but you're saying he may not really even want any investigation. He wants to prevent the release. Why does he want to prevent this? What is he afraid of?
You know, I've never said that these files will implicate Donald Trump, and I really don't think that they will. I think he's trying to protect a bunch of rich and powerful friends, billionaires, donors to his campaign, friends in his social circles. And that's my operating theory on why he's.
Okay, you guys agree. Who do you think Donald Trump is trying to protect here? Tell us all about it.
Trying so hard to keep these files closed.
What do you think is actually in these files? I mean, we've seen so much Epstein material, from the criminal cases, the stuff that just came out this week, from the estate.
Jimmy Burr says Trump is not in the files. It's Buddy says anyone in the files who committed a crime should be arrested regardless of the party or who their friends are. Okay, Zeke says millionaires and billionaires. I can agree with that. Red or Dead says himself and rich friends. And Blue Ocean says, but Trump's not on the list.
What do you think is left?
Yeah, I don't have to guess at what's in the files. I've talked to the survivors through their lawyer, and we know there are at least 20 people in those files. There are politicians, billionaires, movie producers.
Blueberry says he's protecting sleazebag billionaires. Love Thy Brother says Trump said that he will be transparent. Why not release the files? Candyman says, why did I get timed out? Candyman, you're not timed out. I don't time out anybody, so I'm not sure what happened to you. Red or Dead says Blue Trump is all over them. Okay. Blue Ocean says a Democrat judge is stopping the list from being released. Okay. Yvonne, nice to have you here. Welcome in. Says it's not okay to be okay with PDFs or be complicit in it. I second that to the highest degree. You're so right. Cavalier says himself and his billionaire friends. All right.
Producers who are implicated criminally, who haven't been investigated. And it's up to the FBI, not the survivors and the DOJ, to release those names, or at least to investigate them. And when I see Donald Trump announce a bunch of investigations, I don't see him going after these.
Guys, hit the like button, share, and subscribe to the channel. We go live every day at noon to discuss the hot topics and news. We have the legal show every Sunday night at 8 p.m. And we have a lot of new shows coming through. Tomorrow night at 8 p.m., I'm going to be interviewing a celebrity's mother who covered the Diddy's trial. We have a lot of good shows coming through.
Rich elites that are implicated in these files, according to the survivors.
The president has gone after you in some deeply personal ways. I mean, attacking you over and over again, even attacking you for regarding your wedding, your recent wedding, which, by the way, congratulations. What do you make of all that? And he's obviously supporting your primary opponents. I mean, what kind of retribution are you facing?
You know, my wife told me, she said, I told you so. We should have invited Donald Trump. He's mad that he didn't get an invitation. So we're taking it with a grain of salt. He's being a bully, or trying to be a bully. And they're trying to. Okay,
James Nichols says whoever is trying to protect is doing the opposite to his image. The longer he obstructs the public, the more he will. Okay, very good. Teresa says all the financial crimes are in the files. Leon Black. Okay, Motor Scooter says those files will never be released without being highly sanitized. Okay, Danica Ryder says, so which judge is going to block the release this time? Exactly. It's Buddy says, how many child traffickers does he have to be close partners with before we know he is guilty too? Okay. Jonah Tackett says the Republican Party will be set backwards for 50 years if the dirt comes out. Oh, what a shame. Thank you very much.
Beat me here in
Okay, Jimmy Burris, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that very much. Says, why didn't the Biden administration release the files they had for 4 years, correct? If Trump was in them, surely they would have. Make it make sense. What a great point. Thank you very much.
Kentucky. But here's what's interesting. The people financing this campaign consist completely of 3 billionaires, and they're all in the Epstein class. In fact, one of them is named in Epstein's phone book, not the secret files that the FBI is keeping, but in Epstein's phone book. So it's a small world. Dogs don't bark at parked cars, and we are winning. I'm not tired of winning yet, but we are winning. And not only the speaker, but the attorney general, the FBI director, and the president himself and the vice.
Okay, Candyman makes a very strong point here. I think everybody should do well to check it out, and I can no longer see it. I'm not sure why. Okay. Epstein investigation files have gone through 5 presidents, so who are we really going to blame for cover-up? Great point. Cavalier says Jimmy Burris because they were still under investigation. JDP says like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on your notifications. Greg Chambers says, plus he was impeached twice. Oh, my. Eric Nickerson says, thank you to Jimmy Burris. Red or Dead says Maxwell was still trying to overturn her case. That's why Biden didn't release them. Trump can now. Thank you, Red or Dead, for giving us that hard facts. That's the real facts.
President, they're taking a big loss this week because after months of fighting, I am winning this week with Ro Khanna. We're forcing this vote, and it's going to happen. I would remind my Republican colleagues who are deciding how to vote, Donald Trump can protect you in red districts right now by giving you an endorsement. But in 2030, he's not going to be the president, and you will have voted to protect pedophiles if you don't vote to release these files, and the president can't protect you then. This vote, the record of this vote, will last longer than Donald Trump's presidency.
Now, I've talked to Senate leadership who tell me that this is almost certainly not even going to be brought up for a vote in the Senate. What's
Okay, Jaded American says, if you think this was just 5 presidents, you need to think 70 to 80 years. Thank you for that. Jason Ruder says Democrats are pathetic. Motor Scooter says Biden and his attorney general were weak as water. If they had done their job, we wouldn't be in this predicament. Okay. All right. Mike says the Democrats, and welcome back, Mike, says the Democrats will never accept Trump not being guilty of something in those files. Okay. So we're going to move on. We're going to talk about somebody that's near and dear to the Republicans' heart. She goes by the name of Green Marjorie. So let's see what she has to say.
Obviously, any threats to your safety are completely unacceptable. But we have seen these kinds of attacks or criticism from the president at other people.
Donald Trump is really on her case right now. What do you guys think? Do you still have love for her, even though she's not as cozy with the president as she used to be?
It's not new. And with respect, I haven't heard you speak out about it until it was directed at you.
Dana, I think that's fair criticism. And I would like to say humbly, I'm sorry for taking part in the toxic politics. It's very bad for our country.
I should say she has changed tremendously than when she first got involved in politics. It's Buddy says, no, I don't like the grifter and thief. Okay, you think that about Donald Trump. Okay. Grusley says MAGA is hateful cult full of PDF protectors. Okay, all right. Red or Dead says it's not about Trump, it's about people violating kids. What the freak? MAGA is sick. Okay. Motor Scooter says hell no. Jimmy Burris says, was Kamala elected in the primary? Okay. Brian Cantrell says another station with fake news. Okay. Yes, indeed. Jaded American says, I'm a conservative woman and I never did like MTG. Okay. Bordeaux is holding us down and holding us together as always. Nick says Kamala was at Epstein's too. Oh my, what was she doing? MG says Repubs too busy blaming and trying to point the finger at anyone else We don't care. They all need to go to jail. Wow. If they do in those files, Repubs don't say that. Okay. Mike says Donald Trump can always pardon himself for anything that might happen in the future, just like Biden did for his son. Oh, Biden.
And it's been something I've thought about a lot, especially since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, is that I'm only responsible for myself and my own words and actions. And I am committed, and I've been working on this a lot lately, to put down the knives in politics. I really just want to see people be kind to one another. And we need to figure out a new path forward that is focused on the American people, because as Americans,
She sounds like she's about to run for president. What do you guys think? Would you vote for her? Maybe she'll be in the pot for 2020 against J.D. Vance, or against who? I heard Kamala Harris is running again, right? What do you think about that? Another billion going toward her campaign, perhaps even?
no matter what side of the aisle we're on, we have far more in common than we have differences.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to respect each other with our disagreements.
Okay, so she said we need to respect each other with our disagreements. What a great way to end that video. I could agree with that. So what do you guys think in regards to what's happening in the Republican Party? You see the guy, Nick Fuentes. I think he's going very strongly against Donald Trump, and he has a lot of pull from what I can see. I'm intrigued to know what you guys would think about him. And also Tucker Carlson, I think he's backed this guy. And also you see Candace Owens, she's taking a different stance when it comes to Donald Trump, and also on Israel. A lot of these individuals are turning, and they have a different approach when it comes to Israel. Okay, Shelley says, of course, they're going to blame Trump just like they blame him for everything else. People need to get a life. Okay. Red or Dead says, F the white supremacists. Okay. Nick says, I mean, she did make a complete ass out of herself. Okay. Motor Scooter says, MTG is full of it. If you believe her, you're a fool. Okay. I don't think anybody necessarily believe strongly any politician these days. Okay. Jaded American says, Candace Owens is a grifter. Okay. I think I can understand the position you're coming from. And what do you think about her position when it comes to this whole lawsuit? Isn't that something? It looks like there may be some truth to some of her claims, although I thought Candace Owens was really off her rocker. It looks like there may be a little bit of there. I'm not too sure. Brian Cantrell says, remember, Israel is God's chosen. So, Brian, is Israel God's chosen? Are you talking about the Israel today? Or are you talking about the Israel in the Bible? Or are you saying they're one and the same? I would be very interested in knowing your position on that. Robert Torres says MAGA is turning on Trump and Israel first traitor. Okay, Donald Trump seems to be holding to his own position, though. He doesn't seem to be swayed by Israel. At least I think he can make his own decisions, although I'm not totally sure. It's Buddy says he's brainwashed this country. My own family is now thinks all Democrats are evil, as support communism. We can't even have a difference of opinion anymore. Well, we try to have a meeting of the minds here when we do come together for our brief moments in time where we have our chats, and we try to not do a lot of name calling, but try to come to some reasonable meet in the highway. Red or Dead says Candace Owens is a man. Oh my. Okay, Stick says it's real amazing how many will get on here and tell lies, knowing that they are telling lies. Okay, which lies specifically are you referring to, Stick? Break it down for us. Okay. Majorna says the corporation known as the United States. Okay. Jim Green says Trump hole. Okay, not sure what that means. J66 says, I'm sick of our country funding other government programs in other countries. Israel has free health care, colleges, and a full military on the USA dime. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people are upset with Israel, because they feel like the American people are taking a second back seat when it comes to Israel, who's receiving so much support. And that's the changing constant that we see here, especially when it comes to Israel, and why the American people are pushing back, including Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, probably even Alex Jones, so many more. Nick says Trump can't take a shit without going to court. Oh my. Edwin Henry says, Nick, you are correct. Okay, most highly successful people have sold out to the darkness, regardless of what political side they stand on. They're all out to enrich themselves. Check out. Okay, thank you for that comment. Guys, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe while you're here. Come back and hang out with us sometimes. You can turn on your notifications. We go live every day at noon. We also have legal shows. We have we have a law professor. Her name is Candace Kelly. She'll be on here more, breaking down the law. We're going to be covering the case from inside the courtroom of Luigi Mangione. So that's going to be a really big case coming up. I'll be in court on December the 1st for a hearing, and then the trial starts January the 9th. I'll be covering that case. I'll also in December be flying down to Texas to cover Carmelo Anthony. He's a young black guy who stabbed a young white guy in the heart. And I say black, white, so you guys can understand this case has a lot of racial tension. So it's definitely a case a lot of people will be interested in. And I'll be covering it, bringing you guys back the news every day on the case as well. Red or Dead says Trump shouldn't try and flush the documents. Okay. The Mobius says Trump won 2,700 counties versus 500 all swing states and the popular vote. Okay, no doubt about it. He won big, especially going up against Kamala. Jaded American says everyone needs to stop spreading their political stance around. It's a private thing. Okay. Do you think that would help people to get along and act civilized better than what we see? Okay. M. Joyner says mandatory service in the military in Israel. Okay. Eric Nickerson, our great reporter, says please hit the like button. Thank you guys for all the support. All right. Irena Rain says not the same. Those are imposters in Israel, stole the real people's identity. Guys, I'm going to be covering Costa Rica this week. If you guys want to see what's in like and see some boots on the ground, please tune back in this week. I'll be going live from Costa Rica as long as I have good reception. So we'll definitely be trying to cover a lot when it comes to their culture there. The Mobius says Trump won. Okay, you posted that already. That's a repeat. It's Buddy. Nice to have you. Says name calling is all Trump does. It's the go-to. Blame the nickname. Okay, Peter. Peter says time to tell Israel to fund their own nation. A lot of people feel that way. That's a strong point, but I think it's a good point. And I think that we're going to see more and more changes when it comes to Israel. I don't know if you guys noticed, but when the whole issue came up about TikTok, right? What was the issue with it? Allegedly, they were saying that Ukraine was sharing a lot of videos that was damning. And then also there were a lot of videos coming out of Pakistan or Gaza, and that was creating a lot of tension. And that's the reason why. And also they claimed that China was stealing our information. Remember all that? Well, we see a big difference now because Bibi has come forward and he's saying that they're going to change the narrative when it comes to Israel because they're trying to, I guess they're controlling that deal with TikTok and they want to change. Because remember, Charlie Kirk, one of his biggest contentions that he had for Israel when he wrote the letter, he said, you need to do something because when I go to these colleges, the young children, the young kids, the college kids rather, they have a different viewpoint and they feel like Israel is not so good, right? And so now you see BB, he's going on podcasts. They're really working hard to change the narrative when it comes to Israel. You even see Floyd Mayweather of all people. He's over in Israel, talking about how he loves Israel so much and he'll always fight for Israel. So they're working hard to change the way the young people view Israel. Now, will that work? Well, we don't know that yet. But what I will tell you is that Candace Owen, it's nothing to go on her live and she have 125,000 people. Then you see Tucker Carlson, he's making his rounds. You see Nick Fuentes, who's actually going against Trump, and he also talks about Israel. So they're really taking on a lot of heat when it comes to everyday people. And not just that, a lot of their biggest opponents are just YouTubers or other social media personalities that are speaking up, and it's creating great tension, and people are starting to wake up when it comes to Israel. Now, one of the things that I often cover on this channel is how the question I always present is modern day Israel the same Israel from the Bible? And the reason why that's very important to know is because when you go back to the original Hebrew scriptures, you have Israel being God's chosen people, right? Well, when people hear the word Israel today, they automatically think, well, this is the same God's chosen people. They're blessed by God. They're going to have a kingdom. The Messiah is coming back. He's going to set up a kingdom for Israel. And so you see how you can get absorbed into that, especially if you're going to church on Sundays and the pastor is constantly telling you, listen, Israel is God's chosen people. You're not, unless you really know the Bible and you understand, you're not going to really see the difference of Israel today versus the Israel in the Bible. And here's another key point. Because of the way the Bible is put together in the Hebrew scriptures, you have Israel, God's chosen people. But then when you read from Matthew to Revelation, the Greek text, right, you start to get a different vision about Israel, because Jesus in Matthew, he often says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the killer of the prophets. Whoa, wait a minute. So now Jesus is calling Israel or Jerusalem the killer of the prophets. Well, who was it that killed Jesus? It was none other than the Romans, but the Romans did so because of the Israel, right, or the Jews had ordered that to occur. So it's very hard for people to navigate, because even when they go to church, they just hear these little zingers to help them to understand key points. But when it comes to understanding the Bible as a whole, because people don't really read it in its entirety and understand, then it leaves you handicapped in certain instances, because then you're just thinking, oh, I see all these things happening with Israel today. Now, let me tell you what happened here in New York, because when I was covering Diddy trial and I was going to the courthouse every day, I saw the Palestinians, people from Gaza, out in the Manhattan Square, and they were shoulder to shoulder with Jews. And I'm like, well, how is this be? How do you have the Jews and the Gazans, Palestinians, and they have all these signs, free Palestine? Well, recently they came out with a video, and the actual Jews, the local Jews in Brooklyn, were saying, listen, we don't stand behind the state of Israel that you see. We're not behind all of the horror that you see occurring over there. We stand with the Gazan people. We stand against all of the horrendous things that you have witnessed when you look on your TV screens or when you look into your phone and you see the videos of these children and all these terrible things. So it's very important to try to understand how all this works together, because whoever wrote the Greek scriptures, when I went to Rome within the last 2 years, I went to Rome, I went to the Vatican, and I began to understand that a lot of the things that were written in the Bible, in the Greek scriptures, help you to understand that whoever was writing in those times, they were trying to change the narrative about Israel. For one thing, they were fulfilling prophecies. Prophecies were being fulfilled within the Greek scriptures. But also the writers of the Greek scriptures were also changing the narrative on Israel and reiterating that. Notice how Jesus would call the individuals, these Jews, calls them offsprings of vipers. Whoa! Why is Jesus calling them offspring of vipers? Why is he calling God's chosen people that? So when you get the full picture, it'll help people understand the Israel that we see today. And they're doing a really good foot game at trying to change the narrative, just like Charlie Kirk told them to do. Let me get to a few of the comments. I'll see if anybody have any questions before I move on. I try to keep this on news, but we always seem to get into some. Yes, that's right. Brood of vipers. Good job, Bordeaux. Shout out to you. You're preaching today. I love it. Zenith says, you're so misinformed. Okay, break it down. Give me what your misinformed information is. Mike says, just look at what all the colleges allowed go on against Jewish kids. They turned the radicals loose on them and denied it. Okay. I love it when you guys debate, but when you debate, come back with your points. Don't just say you're wrong. Break it down so we can get to it, okay? All right. Brian Cantrell says male Israelites from Exodus. Exactly. Good point. Stick says God is good, God is great. May the good Lord bless and keep us safe. All right. Is that your prayer for tonight? Kankernip says Trump was president when Epstein got his sweetheart deal. Wake up. Okay. He was also president when I believe Epstein left up out of here too. All right. So let's see here. If anybody else have any more comments. Boss Gamer says, but no one blame all Jews or all anyone. It's always a section of people that choose to follow evil and try to bring down others with them. Okay, great point. Nice to have you here. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, hit the notifications, come back. We have these discussions all the time. Red or Dead says, we're not anti-Semitic. We're anti-Israeli government killing kids. Oh, my. What a great expression. And that's exactly what the Jews in Brooklyn was trying to express to the people on the news. Okay, BJ is back. Says China, Putin, and Korea have been meeting with the head of Venezuela, and they want to put nuclear weapons there that can reach us. This is defensive move. Plus, drugs are killing our kids. Thank you for that valuable insight. Sounds very plausible. So thank you for that. One Average Joe says, what about the Christians being murdered in Africa? Great point. What about the women abused in all the Muslim countries? Do you care about them, or do you just want to hate on the Jews? Nobody's hating on the Jews. That's not a hate of the Jews. That's a misconception when people just come in talking about, oh, you're hating on the Jews, when we're just stating what's in the Bible. Like, where do you get that from? You have to be more accurate, and you have to be here for a while to come to a real conclusion about what the message is. You just can't come in and hear just a little snippet and come to a great conclusion. But anyway, the Christians, we did a whole segment within the last week about the Christians in Africa and how Donald Trump says he wants to go in with guns a-blazing if they don't stop killing the Christians over there. So, and we also talk about Muslims. We talk about everything. So you just have to stick around long enough to know what we really do. Candyman says, if you go back to the final wars between Israel and Ramah, when they expelled a large majority of Israelites out of Israel, the Romans went in on a mission to erase all of the positives of Israel reason. Okay, that's a good point. I'm with you on that one. That's awesome. Great job, Candyman. Mio Landy says, anyone who still defends Trump is a PDF protector. Okay, Candyman says, you see scripture change from Old Testament and New Testament. Exactly. That's a great point. That's the point I was making. You see such a great, even the posture of God is different in the Hebrew scriptures versus the Greek scriptures. And it also affects whether or not you see Jesus as being God or if you see Jesus as being the Son of God. So some people, depending on where they sit in their walk of Christianity or what have you, it would influence how you see Jesus, right? I think that's a understandable concept. Steve Raderick says if Trump was guilty, Biden would have found it. They have been investigating him for years. Okay, great point. Okay. Meow Landy says Israel does know Jews. A lot of Jews are very angry with Israel. Great point. That's exactly what I was saying. Okay. Eric says, great show tonight. Yes, indeed. Jimmy Burr says it's a historically accurate book proven by science and genealogy. The Bible is the only way. Basic instructions before leaving Earth. Read it. Okay. Thank you for your comment. Lisa Golden says Jew and Jewish are two different things. Okay. Lisa, feel free to break it down for those in the audience who may not know. Brian Cantrell says, Mel, I will catch you at noon while fishing on my boat. All right. Be safe out there and catch all the big ones. All right. Dennis says, ha, ha, ha. Okay. Crappy point. Not sure what point that was. And Too Deep says, I like to see more attention towards we the people in the streets and how to be more prosperous for the families rather than how rich folks party behind doors. Okay. All right. Good point. Dennis says the files were court sealed. Okay. Jimmy Burr says there are Jews and Christian Jews. I believe one or two other Jew religions as well. Yes. Judeo-Christians is what they're formally called, and there's other aspects of it as well. All right, so we have a lot of comments rolling through. Zach Davis, guys, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Come back and have these discussions with us. If you don't agree, feel free to come up and talk about it. I welcome each and every one of you guys. If you want to come up and have some civilized conversation, let's go for it. Iron sharpens iron. So I'm pretty sure Brian Cantrell would second that one. Let's see here. Meow Lanny says, please read Kate Johnson versus Donald Trump and versus Epstein. She discusses how they violated her at 13 and slapped and punched her. Oh my goodness. What a terrible thing if true. JDP says, like, share, and subscribe, and turn on your notifications to be notified of the upcoming shows. All right. We have a lot of shows in store. In fact, tomorrow at noon we'll be on. Jimmy Burr says, let's all pray for J66. He, she needs it. Okay. I didn't get to read what the issue is, but if you want to expound upon it, feel free to do so. All right. We're just going to do a few more comments and then we're going to wrap up. I'm starting to lose my voice. James says, I'm trying to understand the point you're making. Yes, Greek scriptures has changed the narrative on Hebrew scriptures, but which scriptures do we take as true? Okay. That's a good point. And that's a long answer. Yeah, that's a very long, we could do a whole show on that one. So let me do this. I'll do a show on that, but I would like to think that you would be here. Send me your email me. I'll make sure you're here for that show and we'll do a breakdown because there seems to be a lot of interest when it comes to the Bible. Alexander says, what does the Bible say about are you saying Palestinians maybe? I'm not sure. The Christians? I can't make out the word exactly. JD Cow says, you all see the Big Beautiful Bill dance party song. It's a banger. Okay. Bonobo says, all of them simple, but don't look away from main perpetrators. Okay. Brian Cantrell says, Satan, you say, according to that, that's a bad place to go. Holler at him, but I rebuked him already and I will pray for you. Okay, so not sure what's going on there in regards to Satan. SC says Trump is the greatest president ever. A lot of people have been saying that tonight. Miolani says, I am so relieved to see more GOP supporters are understanding the damage of Trump has caused to the U.S. Okay. JD's Couch says, Bubba. Yes, indeed. We talked about Bubba tonight. Bubba and Donald Trump. There's a narrative going around about the two of them. SC says, we could do a whole show on the fact that you are a bullshit artist. Okay, thank you. Nice to have your comment. It's very easy to make those type of comments, but you have to have some type of substance. So we like to know what your angle is. Matrix says, from personal experience, and that's the negativity. We get a lot of that, but it's almost a reflection of the person that's saying it. And sometimes my heart go out to people that speak like that, who know nothing about me, probably the first time I'm seeing the individual, and they come in with such a negative spin, like, what's wrong with your day? What's going on in your life that you have to go around talking to people like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's wrong? You need a hug? I mean, we're here for you. Matrix says, from personal experience, news don't respect African nor African Americans. Okay, good point, Matrix. Nice to have you. Candyman says, hey, Mel, did anything ever come out of the FBI investigation of those cops in the South that were arrested? Haven't seen anything yet in regards to that, but I definitely will. Let me start that here. And let me do some research to see if we learned anything more about it. J66 says, I view the Bible as a fantasy book with the following and a whole lot of harming children within the churches to the point of having their own insurance industry for it. Okay, great expression, J66. Thank you for breaking that down and giving us your personal viewpoint. JD's Couch says, SC, make America. Oh, my goodness. All right, we'll leave SC alone. It seems to be having a rough day. Jimmy Burr says the original Bible wasn't even Hebrew. If you do your research, it was Hebrew and Arabic, I believe. Okay, thank you for your expression. Matrix says news. Okay, Lisa Golden says, by the way, Trump going to destroy America economy with tariff, food, rent, and cost of living will be 5 times the current price. Okay, thank you. Sandman says, because the devil is a Democrat. Okay. Joyful Seville says, in the Bible, the Jews didn't receive our Lord Jesus Christ and were Gentiles, heard the word, they were thirsty and hunger for the word. Good point, Joyful 7. That is definitely in the Bible. Especially toward the Gentiles. I could really get into that too, but I just don't have the amount of time needed. It was the Apostle Paul that really pushed for the Gentiles. When Jesus died, if you really read the Gospels, Jesus says, he only came for those of the lost tribe of Israel. He says that, I think there's at least 3 times he makes that statement. I've only come for the lost tribe of Israel. Why is he saying that? It wasn't until after his death that he came back, and Mark was the first. Most Bible scholars think that Mark was written first, and then Mark, he comes back and he says, go preach the good news to every creature. But before that, in most of the references he made, he says, go preach to those of the house of Israel, the lost tribe of Israel. Okay, James says, thank you. Where do I email you? I see you on the first time. I like your objectives. Hashem bless you. James, I'll have someone, could one of the moderators put the email address in, and we could definitely pick up the conversation. Thank you so much. All right. He says you seem quite measured and chill, to be honest. Thank you. There's we try to have a good place to hang out and have some good chat. Even though we cover some major issues, we try to do so peacefully. Okay. Luther B, we're gonna end with you. Says President Trump built the wall and secured our southern borders, and he blessed Israel He brokered peace personally in 8 world conflicts to stop those wars. Okay, great point. I have no objection to anything you said. Okay, Jimmy Burris, thank you for the super chat. Says, love your demeanor, brother. Cool and calm. We'll tune in again. All right, nice to have you here. I want to make sure I didn't miss. Okay, we have so many different comments. All right, so what should we end on today? Somebody want to tell us what should we end on? Let's end on a high note. What do you guys want to end on? Give me a subject. BJ Breachy came back. I'm glad you are with us. Nice having you. He wanted them to preach to the lost. Okay. At that particular time, they were in Israel. He later told them to preach to the lost all over the world. Again, that's synonymous to what I said. After he died, he says, go, and Mark specifically says, go preach to every creature. Go check that out. It actually says that. Okay, Dennis Nielsen says Trump has not stopped or ended any conflicts. Oh my goodness. That is too funny, man. That is too funny. Good point, though. All right. Let's see. Big, beautiful Bill. Okay, that's what everybody wants to talk about. Trump is a poopy head. My goodness. Daddy, everybody wants to talk about Trump. Okay, a lot of Trump supporters I see. Okay, Dennis says, please provide proof. Dennis, provide proof of what? Tell us what you want proof of. You want proof of the scripture that says go preach to every creature in the King James Bible? I could pull that for you real quick if you need it. Okay, UMAD says libs are like Christmas lights. Half of them don't work, and the other half that do aren't very bright. Oh man, we can't end on that note. That's kind of negative toward Democrats. Okay, John Stevenson says neither side will release the files. If they did, then we would have one less thing to divide us. They know this. Okay. MAGA wins, according to you, Matt. Derek Coker says, y'all forget about the Catholic ring. Okay. All right. Sandman talking about vaccines available soon. TDS. Okay. Trump derangement syndrome. Okay. All right. Poopy head. He's a cokehead for sure. He's talking about Donald Trump. Okay. Stefan, we went over that email about Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. We went over that earlier. And Dubs Full Throttle says Trump, the throat. Oh my God, man. All right, guys, come on. Let's get serious. I wanted somebody to choose a good subject to end on, and we just this has turned into a comedy section. Okay, UMass says if Biden and Harris would be released to silly files, we wouldn't be here. Okay. One Love is in the building. Shout out to One Love. Nice to have you here. I was wondering where you were at, One Love. Nice to see you. Sandman says, check out Tamara McDonald's new song, The Devil is a Democrat. Okay. Derek says, cowards. Okay. All right. Salute to you, One Love, from JDP and from Bordeaux. Lisa Golden says, we can talk about the new world being staged in our time. All right. Yes, that's a good point. Okay. Donica Mikulski, right? Or whatever her last name was. Okay. All right. Let's see. UMass says, fun fact, you can judge a man's character by the children. He was raised Trump's kids and Biden's kids dropped the mic. Okay. All right. Okay. UMass says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be sons of God. Okay. Now that's a good point. We want to keep peace, right? There's enough negativity in the world, so it's nice to see that. Okay. All right. So we have quite a few. Let's see. John Stevenson says, why would we believe anything that Epstein says in the email to anyone? Okay. All right. Derek Coker says, Trump raised a pile of grifters. Okay. All right. We have a lot of trolls here today. I like those trolls. We want to keep them in the audience, you know. maybe we could help them along. JD's Couch says, oh, well, yeah, we don't want to talk about Lewinsky. Yeah, that's right, Lewinsky. That was her last name. Okay. All right. Nicole says, let's end with Luke 1:37. Okay. Drop it in the comments, Nicole. Put it in the comments. Okay, here we go. All things are possible with God, even unity. Okay, well, maybe we can get some unity here tonight, right? It's beautiful to be able to leave the show and have to feel much better than you did when we started, right? Isn't that amazing? All right, so I guess that's it for tonight. Yeah, a lot of trolls, It's all right, though. UMass says, Jesus is pro-life. Let that sink in for a moment. Lives. Okay. All right. Nicole says, amen. All right, guys, that's it for today. We've carried on. We're hitting the 2-hour mark. We just hit 2 hours. Can you imagine that? Dennis says, Trump and Epstein was best friends. Oh, my goodness. All right, Renee Black, welcome back. Renee says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall see. Let's see, the comment went away. They shall inherit the earth. Okay, we'll end on that note. So, Renee Black says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall inherit the earth. All right, thank you so much, Renee. Nice to have you here, guys. Hit the like button, share, subscribe. We'll see you tomorrow at noon. And we look forward to those that are peacemakers, those that are spreading love, not just calling names, But, for the people in the audience that are calling names and all that negative talk, you got to wonder what's going on in their lives that they're so bitter, So we don't want to look down. We don't want to return evil to these type of people. But we just wonder, what is it that's got them so jumbled and bumbled in their undies, Michelle says, gotta rewatch this, Mel. Shout out to you, Michelle. Nice to see you. We have to connect again. John Stevenson says, does the justice system really seek the truth? Okay. All right. Very good. Let's see here. All right. We'll put them on time out. Okay. All right. Very good. I guess that's it. Let's see. TDS is life sentence. Sandman says, JD's What's a Woman? Talking about JD Vance, maybe? Not sure. Okay. Meow Landy says, if you support Trump still, you are a PDF supporter straight up. Okay. Sandman says, and we a cult. Okay. Not sure what cult that is. All right. All right, very good. Thank you to all the moderators that tuned in tonight to help us. JDP is still at it. She says, like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notification. We had thousands of people come through tonight. I appreciate all the support. We have so much good quality interviews coming through starting tomorrow night at 8 p.m. You're going to really like to hear from the person that we have in store. A nice surprise for you. Her son is on the biggest podcast on the internet, so I'll let her explain all that to you guys tomorrow night. Renee Black says, God bless you, brother. God bless you too, Renee. Shout out to you. Queen's Flip's mother will be here tomorrow. So she covered Diddy's trial. For those who may know who Queen's Flip is, his mother will be here tomorrow. So looking forward to her show. And JDP, not sure what that's about. If people are being negative, don't even sweat the technique, I'm sorry people are being so rude. BJ says there's obviously a lot of mental illness in the world, and I wish them the best. Yeah, they need help really bad. Zeke says, what kind of Christian marries a Hindu? Okay, well, he's trying to convert her to a Christian, so he's made that very clear. Okay. All right. All right. Let's see. Transform invading women's. Okay. All right. So, yeah, guys, let's not be brutal to each other like that. And I guess that didn't mean anything toward. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure we're being not spreading hate. That's right, Renee. No need to spread hate. All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow at noon, and also tomorrow night at 8 p.m. We have a show in store. And thank you kindly. And please, let's try to not be so aggressive and call in names and all that type of stuff. There's no need for that. Good night, everyone.
Different voices, but the same song. Living a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the thing remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. The colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.